Hello, can you hear me? If you can write just yes, so we can go on. Can you hear? Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks to be here today again in our online masterclass within the Erasmus Plus European project entitled Building Territorial Bridges for the best travel experience and for the benefit of local community. First of all, sorry for my voice. And many of you wrote me about the impossibility to be here today. So don't worry about that. We will record this meeting, okay? And feel free to write down the group all the questions you want so I can reply later, okay? Today we are dealing with one of the most important and difficult phenomena in the tourism sector, and for which the intervention of each of us is required worldwide. So you have chosen one of the sectors that more than any other maintains constant growth globally, even in times of, and demonstrate a resilience common of few other sectors. Despite the recent economic crisis, according to the UNWTO in 2030, the share of arrivals of international tourists will exceed the 1 billion mark. This large number of travelers, to which must be added those who remain within national borders, has meant that over the years, some tourist places have begun to suffer from the pressure caused by the massive presence of tourists, leading to the birth of a new phenomenon that concerns all types of tourist destinations, from cities of art to seaside and naturalistic destinations, which is over-tourism. The UNWTO defines over-tourism as the impact of tourism on a destination or parts thereof that excessively influences perceived quality of life of citizens and/or quality of visitor experiences in a negative way. But what does it technically mean? Tourist carrying capacity is a concept that emerged from the Rio conference in sharing the key principles of Agenda 2021 and the maximum number of people that may visit a tourist destination at the same time without causing destruction of the physical, economic, socio-cultural environment, and an acceptable decrease in the quality of visitor satisfaction. So we have different capacities, okay? We have a physical, psychological, ecological, social, economic, and political capacity. Any of these capacity refers to the limits which, in order to avoid a situation of over-tourism, should not be exceeded. So the physical, psychological capacity indicates the amount of people that a space can physically contain without cause negative repercussion on those who are inside it. The psychological one refers to the maximum number of tourists and/or residents present in an area of which situation of discomfort do not arise psychological symptoms related to crowding, such as stress or mental confusion. Hence the use of a parameter such as tourist pressure, which is the number of presence per inhabitant. The ecological capacity determines the flows a destination can handle so that there is no environmental damage. The capacity levels for the ecological component can be expressed in terms of acceptable level of congestion or density in key areas, maximum acceptable loss of natural resources, acceptable level of air, water, and noise pollution. Social capacity includes the tolerance levels of the population and the quality of the experience of visitors to the area. The capacity levels for the social component can be expressed in terms of the number of tourists and the types of tourist leisure activity that can be absorbed without affecting the identity, lifestyle, social patterns, and activities carried out by the host communities up to levels that makes the visitor experience unacceptable, which is the irritation effect. Economic capacity. It represents the ability to absorb various tourist functions without compromising local activities. The crowding out effect consists in economic crowding out. The growth of tourism determines the concentration of economic activities in the sector is in a given region or country, so that tourism crowds out other economic activities, with the limiting case of monoculture productive. Moreover, city centers suffer a gentrification effect. Uninhabited houses are sold to be converted into hotels and restaurants, and at the same time, external buyers buy properties without having a permanent home or by renting them out. Politic capacity is about the volume of visitors that the administration are able to manage to ensure that they do not crop out negative consequences typical of over-tourism. This has become more evident during these last years. In many tourist destinations, the dominant production system, so the tourist one, was shaken by the first global event in history that interrupted travel. This has emptied cities, historic centers, and many tourist districts, highlighting some problems that have been discussed internationally for years. So let's go to see some examples in the world about over-tourism and when tourism is too much. First of all, we have Venice, which is considered an emblematic case of over-tourism, and the term Venezianization was coined to define a city distorted by tourist pressure. For these reasons, the majority of tourists limit their visit to a very short period, often 1 day, maximum 2. In Venice, there has been an anthropological change in visitors who, from being curious and enthusiastic, have become hit-and-run tourists, often superficial and disinterested. The massive presence distorts the city, which adapts to their needs and wears it down by clogging up public transport and the fragile pedestrian road system. The continuation of this unsustainable situation had led many to foresee the imminent and definitive transformation of Venice into a theme park for day tourists, as well as the death of Venice, together with its material and immaterial historical and cultural heritage. Today, the administration is studying measures aimed at analyzing and managing visitor flows and protecting the environment. So, in the photo, in this picture, you can see how is Venetia in Venice in the reality. But this is what tourists buy. This is the difference. Santorini, for example, represents the 10% of all tourism in Greece, and the administration has decided to limit the load by imposing a limit on cruise landings from 18,000 to 8. Tourism has created many jobs, but as there is no longer any housing available, housing camps have sprung up on other islands, from which ferries depart for commuters. Greece strongly communicated during the UNWTO Seoul 2018 summit the attempt to promote other islands to shift part of the arrivals in order to improve the tourist experience no longer guaranteed in Santorini and improve the economic conditions of the whole nation. So this is Santorini in the picture during the sunset, okay, in reality, but this is what tourists buy. What about Dubrovnik? Limitation of cruise landings, which literally invade the old city during the high season, transforming it into a playground full of visitors. Here too, the Croatian government is pursuing policy aimed at avoiding the concentration of visitors by advising online and with info points positioned in strategic points the best times during which to visit the main attractions. So this is the city center of Dubrovnik in reality, but this is what tourists buy. In Barcelona, is worse. So the exponential growth of tourist flows in the last 15 years has caused numerous protests against the high price of housing. Many neighborhood associations have been created to defend housing. The municipality has decided to act with a strategic plan for urban tourism in force in 2017 to manage tourist growth by guaranteeing residence. Among the intervention is the control of tourist locations. So this is what happened in Barcelona, and this is what tourists buy. But obviously, over-tourism is not just an European problem. For example, Philippines, Indonesia, and Thailand are the most affected because these are tropical paradises in the Pacific Ocean. The tourist overcrowding is putting to the test. This was revealed by a study conducted by the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental, specifying that in those places that were uncontaminated in the past, mass tourism has brought with it the problem associated with the dumping of waste, chemicals, the reckless use of plastic, the destruction of mangroves to make room for luxurious resorts. So many islands are forced to run for cover between closures and limitations to allow their ecosystems to regenerate. Emblematic is the disastrous situation of Maya Bay, the beach in the film The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio, which at the beginning had to remain closed indefinitely due to the pollution and erosion of the coral reefs caused by the massive influx of tourists. Another case was that of the island of Boracay in the Philippines, a tropical paradise transformed into an environmental disaster and closed to tourism to allow the demolition of hundreds of illegal accommodation facilities and create an adequate sewage system. So, as already repeated several times before, the number of tourists always tend to increase. This tourist boom is due to the ever greater ease of traveling. Social media also played an important role. In fact, the most beautiful photos shared by influencers were taken right on these beautiful places and are viewed by thousands of people who want to see the same places, take the same photos with those breathtaking views. And with reference to the previous meeting in which we analyzed the actors of the tourism system, for example, tourists, enterprises, political administrative system, and the local population, we can say that the carrying capacity is therefore not a single number, but a vector of indices determined according to the type of territory analyzed, the management objectives, the resilience of the system, and the types of activities present. It is therefore necessary to incorporate the analysis of tourism capacity into the planning of urban agendas. It can be considered as a set of instructions for formulating tourism development plans at different levels. Past experiences have revealed how the interests of the public end up coinciding with the need of the market and therefore of profit to preserve the territory and its social cultural qualities. I want to show today one of the most important reports, which was launched during the 7th UN WTO World Summit on Urban Tourism in 2018 in Seoul. And this report examines how tourism can benefit both visitors and local population. According to estimates by the World Tourism Organization, international tourists have increased from 20 million in 1950 to over 1.3 billion in 2017 in recent decades. A phenomenon like this needs to be managed. So, there are legends related to tourist congestions that should be rejected. First of all, tourist congestion is not linked to the number of visitors, but to their management. The three main factors that contribute to the perception of the phenomenon are seasonality, which aggravates overcrowding, disturbance, noise, dirt that create discomfort for the residents, excessive physical impact of tourism, such as the proliferation of hotels, bed and breakfast, etc. Second, tourist congestion is a localized problem, not a city-wide one, normally in historical centers and near the main attractions. In fact, it is necessary to examine the specifics of each local situation in order to try to find an adequate solution. Tourist congestion is not just a tourist problem. It can bring unresolved problems such as public transport or waste management to the surface, aggravating them, as well as affecting the real estate market. For these reasons, it should be included in the urban agenda and treated with particular attention. At the end, technological solutions are important, but they alone will not solve the problems of tourist congestion, like city cards, turnstiles, etc. It is necessary that all stakeholders participate to solve the problem. But let's go to see the strategy suggested by this report. The strategy has been a response to the need for change in many tourist destinations. The first strategy is to promote the dispersion of visitors in the city and beyond. How? Organizing events in less visited parts of the city and in the suburbs, developing and promoting attractions and facilities in the suburbs, Implement travel card for unlimited public transport. Show the city as unique to encourage visitors to visit it in its entirety. The second strategy is to promote time-based dispersion of tourists. How? Promote experiences and stimulate events during the off-season months. Promote dynamic pricing strategies. Arrange the management of attractions by time slots in a dynamic and interactive way to the help of technology. The third strategy is stimulate new itineraries and attractions. Promote new itineraries and propose them also through guides and info points. Offer combined discounts between attractions, highlighting hidden treasures. Create experiences for niche visitors. Stimulate visits to less visited parts of the city. Stimulate virtual tours to complement classic visits. The fourth is the review and adapt the regulation. Review attraction opening hours and access rules for large groups to popular attractions. Review traffic regulations and create large pedestrian zones. Secure parking for visitors on the edge of the city and create taxi depots. Review rules and taxation for hospitality and tourism services. Define the carrying capacity of the city and attraction. The fifth strategy is promote segmentation, identify and target low-impact visitor segments in accordance with specific city context and goals. Target repeat visitors because a visitor who returns to a destination can better appreciate its hidden aspects. Discourage the visit of the city to certain segments of visitors. Ensure local communities benefit from tourism. To increase the level of employment in tourism by improving its conditions, create awareness and knowledge of the sector among local communities, involve them in the development of local tourism products, increase the quality of infrastructure by considering residents and visitors, stimulate the development of impoverished suburbs through tourism. Another strategy is creating city experiences that benefit both visitors and residents. Develop the city by listening to the needs of the residents and the wishes of the visitors, considering the latter as temporary residents. Integrate visitor services with local activities and holidays. Create and promote local city ambassadors, like influencers. Promote cultural and artistic initiatives such as street art to give new perspectives and improve the image of the suburbs. Extend the opening hours of attractions. Improve and enhance the city's infrastructures and services. So, creating a citizen traffic management system, enhancing cultural infrastructure by improving signage and translated material. Improve public transport, dedicating specific lines to tourists at least during the high season, adapting them to real volumes. Create footpaths and cycle paths by stimulating rental. Make the paths accessible for the disabled and the elderly. Adapt the city cleaning system to tourist volumes. Another strategy is communicate and involve local stakeholders. Ensure the involvement of local stakeholders by organizing discussion platforms and professional development programs. Conduct regular research among residents. Encourage residents to share content on social media, involving disjoint and city communities, making them collaborate with a common goal. Communicate and engage visitors. Create awareness of the tourism impact among visitors. Educate visitors on local values, traditions, and rules. Provide adequate information about traffic restrictions, parking services, public transport services, and taxis. And the last strategy is set up monitoring and responsive measures. Monitor indicators such as seasonal demand fluctuations, tourist arrivals and spending, visitor segments, attraction, visiting patterns, etc. Use big data and new technologies to monitor and evaluate tourism performance and impact. Create contingency plans for peak season periods. So be prepared for change, because it could be a chance for us. And to do this, is necessary to have knowledge and transversal skills. So, for example, an approach to sustainability is required by any company in any sector, obviously also the tourist one. We are not just talking about skills related to energy saving or the efficiency of the production process. Brand management now requires a sensitivity that knows how to understand the perception that consumers have, and the latter are pushing many big brands towards a more conscious attitude of economic and social issues, as well as environmental ones. The valorization of the territory itself, of the cultural peculiarities and beyond, are part of the set of skills required, and everything must be declined in a sustainable key. But what does sustainable tourism mean? According to the World Tourism Organization of United Nations, sustainable tourism is defined as the form of tourism that satisfies the needs of travelers and host territories, and at the same time protects and improves opportunities for the future. Why do we desperately need it? Because the beaches and seas overlooked by our hotels and resorts, or where our cruises sail, are no longer as crystalline as tourists would like. The mountains do not have the snow that many skiers expect. Cities and monuments are not exactly like postcards, travel agency catalogs, or millions of posts on social media portray them. Awareness led to agreement, and this led to binding decisions for governments around the world. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is an action program for people, the planet, and prosperity, signed in September 2015 by the governments of the 193 member countries of the United Nations. We have 17 objectives in a large action program for a total of 169 targets. The establishment of an unsustainable development situation, involvement of all countries without distinctions between emerging and developing, which will contribute with their specific strategy, involvement of all components of civil society. The official launch of the Sustainable Development Goals coincided with the beginning of 2016, guiding the world on the path to take over the next 15 years. In fact, countries have committed to achieving them by 2030. Sorry. So let's conclude this meeting today with some key words. First of all, the awareness. We need to be aware of how the way we live, consume, produce, work, and travel is changing. People, consumers are changing. They are informed, critical, distrustful, and want to be autonomous in the choices that concern them. They evaluate only the product, but also the company that produces it. Coherency. When an organization is sustainable, coherence becomes a necessary prerequisite, avoiding contradictions between action and communication. Transparency, intellectual honesty, and sincerity to gain the trust of stakeholders. Radicality, the need for net change in our way of thinking and acting, of understanding production processes, the economy, finance, and consumer behavior. If we agree that we are living in an epochal transaction, what will make the difference is how we will all participate in the change. Creativity. If you want to enhance sustainability, creativity must be a strategic choice about what and how to communicate, suggesting solutions never considered before. And listen and observe to be able to understand what to offer and who to offer it to. So, sorry for my voice. And I hope that this meeting just give you some suggestion about this big problem we have today, and that will encourage you to do some question and to debate in the last meeting we have at the end of March. And see you next Monday, always at 15 CET time. And thank you to be here with me today. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.